Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome everyone, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us for our very last webcast of 2019. Is there a business case for happiness? Might seem an odd title for a webcast. It's kind of pretty good timing because as we reach the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, for many of you, it's the fiscal year close coming up. There's budgeting and planning going on. There's Christmas and New Year coming up. It's a stressful time, both business-wise and personally, for many of us. So this is a good time to stop and pause for thought a little bit about some of the things that may be the opposite of stress. We know our businesses, most businesses these days are kind of starting to embrace the issue of wellness and workplace effectiveness for folks who work with us. But certainly, if you're anything like me, a little bit of confusion about what is the level of responsibility we should take for this enlightened, better state of life for everyone, including ourselves. So it's kind of feel-good world. So we're going to spend 45 minutes talking about this, and we've got a really interesting speaker with us today. So my name is Dan French. I'm the founder and CEO at Consider Solutions. I know many of you. This is my face before I attended the Happiness webcast. I have got a after photo, which I might show you at the end. But I'm very, very pleased to welcome with us Juergen Mueller, who's the Happiness Czar and the IT audit partner at PwC. Welcome, Juergen.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And I confirm I've never saw you having such a face, Dan, and we know each other for what, 10 years or more? Yeah.
That's what they call a face only a mother could love. But Juergen is an unusual combination. He's an IT auditor. He's a partner in a Big Four firm. He's German, and he's talking about happiness. Now that could be the opening of one of those, a German and an Englishman walk into a bar jokes, but it's not. We're going to talk about this. And you might wonder, what is a German guy doing talking about happiness? And I thought about this morning, and I was asking myself the same question, whether we made a big mistake. But no, if you think about the big thinkers on psychoanalysis and the state of the human mind and body, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud were both Germans, or were they? But then again, is Juergen. And moving right on, very happy to have Juergen, and I thought I'd bring in the German and the audit joke in early. I'm just going to say a couple of things about my company, and this is not meant to be a commercial, it's just, it raises an interesting question. So when we talk about our business and we talk with our clients, we talk about this aspiration to world-class finance and world-class operations, and on the left-hand side, you see the definition of what we mean by world-class. Is about driving better business results, it's reducing cost of operations, it's optimizing cash flow, and it's having better risk management. But there's a big thing missing there, and I'll be the first to own up to it. There's people and teamwork. You can't do any of this without people who are motivated to achieve the results you're trying to get as an organization. So Juergen and I have been talking about this topic for quite some time, and it really does get you thinking as an individual and as a leader. So for today's conversation, I'm making some very brief introductions here, but Juergen's going to take us through his journey and the work he's doing, both within PwC and with clients, and frankly with his social network, of which I'm one. This whole discussion about why is happiness important? I mean, it might seem so obvious, but what is it? What's its relevance to business? And what obligations and responsibilities do we have as individuals and as leaders? And what can we do about it? And is there a business case for happiness? And then we're going to have a little fireside chat, which will conclude the 45 minutes. And I hope you find this as thought-provoking and stimulating as I have. So with that, I'd like to introduce again to you Juergen Mueller. Juergen, what is the business case for happiness?
Now, it's very interesting to see that actually since the late 80s, researchers have shown that happy people are better performers, published by Seligman and Schulman already in 1986. And since then, every year, a community is coming out. The Harvard Business Review does it in the past years, showing that actually happy people are better leaders, take better decisions, and are more successful. And still, business seems to resonate against happiness, because it has this fluffy feeling that happiness means we love each other and we hug each other and we see the world through pink glasses. But that's not, and I will explain what happiness at work is and how actually the business case for that works out. And for that, I need to introduce how I actually got into this topic as an IT person, as a German, and as someone who works in a big four company. 12, 13 years ago, I had all the success that you could imagine. I was a partner, getting more responsibility, getting more money, getting more status, getting more of everything. But one day I was standing in my bathroom and I had a white shirt, and the guy in the mirror looking at me, that wasn't me any longer. All the power, all the enthusiasm that I had, that what brought me there was gone. And I was actually sad and tired, and I called myself at that time a working zombie. Still, I performed, but I was in zombie mode. I was fighting everyone. I saw everywhere danger, and I wasn't at that time for sure an inspiring leader and taking the people with me. And so I started a long journey. A long journey, and everything that you are seeing on that slide, maybe except ecstasy, I have been trying out. And how that journey actually started is, yeah, by trying out mindfulness, by trying out meditation, and it helped me. All of that, what you are seeing here on the page, actually helped me to get out of this zombie mode. And why was it so important to get out of the zombie mode? Because I was working constantly 13, 14 hours a day. My BlackBerry that we had at the time was blinking and I was jumping on it like I couldn't stop jumping on it when the red light was on. I worked over the weekend, and actually my family, my wife asked me once, do you have an idea what you are doing with your life? And then I explained to her how important my work is, and that I wouldn't do this, maybe the whole company comes to a stop tomorrow. And my kids also feed it back to me that, you know, Daddy, you are physically with us, but actually you aren't with us here. And this little piece is, so the first thing that I needed to do was a deconnection. And that actually then allowed me to go on my personal happiness travel. And I started things like yoga and meditation. And I wrote a book about loving kindness. And again, this is not something that comes naturally to a German guy. And at that time when I was starting this journey, I didn't talk to any of my partner colleagues or friends, because I would never ever again be invited to beers and a football evening. And all of these things were helping me, but they were not the key. And today I will provide you all listening here to the keys actually to happiness in the work and in your daily actions. Instead being in a hamster wheel, you are actually in a wheel that gives you power. Before we go there, let's quickly look what actually is happiness. And in the psychologists today, they say happy people have frequent positive emotions and infrequent, and that's very important, though not absent, negative emotions that you see. And I think this is what I said at the beginning. Being happy isn't mean we are running around and we love everyone, it's all good. Being happy is having frequent positive emotions, having frequent chemicals that allows you to take the good decisions, and only infrequently you are angry and you are mad and you're running around. And when we look to the philosophy, actually already in the Greek times, they were talking about happiness, and there are two ways to define happiness. It's the eudaimonia way and the eudaimonia way. Eudaimonia is actually more talking about happiness as a welfare, have a human flourishing, prosperity, a life in pursuit of human excellence, something that is more internal. While hedonia is more happiness is delivered to outside effects, to outside things. So going often to a massage, collecting stamps, or the richer people would collecting boats or any kind of other things. And that's actually then the hedonistic treadmill is that once you are starting to generate your happiness through that, you always want more. You know, you have been skiing in Switzerland on the highest mountains, but then you want to go to Canada and to helicopter skiing somewhere in the powder. You always want more and more and more. So that's one of the problems that we see with this hedonia way of creating happiness. Also important is to understand that actually we are programmed by our genes. 50% we have from our parents. We can't do anything about them. 10% are actually created in which family and which country we are born into, and which social community and environment. And only 40% are influenceable by ourselves. And if you look around, you may be figuring out that some of your friends have a tendency rather to be happy while others not. And this is actually in our genes. Also important for me was to learn that we have a negative bias. You may be remembering that when we are coming together in groups in the morning or during the day, we often quickly becoming very negative, talking about our company, talking about the political solution at the planet, talking about the climate change that we didn't get under control. And if you do this all the day long, guess, you know, you have a very negative experience. And actually this kind of thoughts are repeating themselves. If someone asks you how you are doing and you are saying, I'm doing very bad, and you're telling that story 10 times a day, there you are. So all this needs to be said when we then talking about happiness at work. And there was a lot of things to understand in that area. And we both then, we discussed a lot about this hedonic way of pleasure and happiness.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion, Juergen, because I'm fascinated by this, because certainly in my younger years, and to be honest, until we really discussed this, I'd never really considered the difference between pleasure and happiness. And the science has demonstrated that completely different things happen in the brain, and very isolated, as you can see, with kind of pleasurable experiences as to sort of sustained happiness. And I think we often confuse ourselves between pleasure and happiness. And I think when you've had a particularly, hard time, you tend to seek out pleasure, whereas it might be better off to seek out something that makes you more sustainably happy. But I think that's an interesting image. As I say, that's based on the science of what actually goes on in the brain during these experiences.
Yeah. And when what actually happened to me, I see this happening in many of, especially the big international companies. I'm working in one of them and I'm serving them. They are also my clients. At the beginning of the career, the young people coming out of the university, they have dreams, they are enthusiastic, they are passionate about their jobs. And then it seems that they are getting eaten by the machinery which is around them. because the non-happiness, or then let's call it stress, is not happening from one day to another. And actually at the beginning of the workshops that I'm running with the people, you see 3 of the questions that I'm asking the people, where then they have to make a self-assessment. And I invite you also to do this self-assessment now silently with me. I'm asking the question to the participants: are you feeling stress? Stress in your body through back problems, regular heartaches, through that you're putting on more kilos and more weight year after year. How are you actually sleeping? Are you falling easily to sleep? Are you waking up at night regularly at 3 o'clock or at 4 o'clock, and then you can't go into sleep modus because your brain is kicking in and you are just thinking about all the stuff? How are you eating? How much coffee and alcohol are you drinking? And then, yeah, I'm asking the people to make a self-assessment from 1, it's really stressful and my body speaks to me, or 10, I'm really doing very well, I'm happy with all of that. So just take 10 seconds to think about this. And then I ask the people, do you know why you do your job? Is that still in connection with why you joined? And is that still around your passion? You know, typically people start a job and they are eager about finance, supply chain, nowadays digitalization, SAP implementations, and I know what. And at the beginning of our careers, we actually working in these passionate fields, and our careers typically make very good, very fast progress. And we get the recognition from the company, and we are liking that recognition. But very quickly you could maybe being drawn into, instead of working on some of these topics, you becoming the team leader of other people. And there you are, you need to take care of the budget and the financials of your team. You need to find new customers. So that's another reason why a lot of people are actually very unhappy. So I'm asking you also to think about this. Is that still the same purpose why you're doing your job today? And then finally, the question is, how happy are you with your life? And have you chosen that life? Or actually, is that life living you? It's very prominent in the companies that agendas, electronic agendas, everyone books you a meeting from 8 to 8. You're having back-to-back meetings all day. You feel like no control over that. Then you are coming home, depending on your situation. You have maybe kids, you have this and you have that, and there is one obligation after another, and actually someone else is running your life. Is that your case? Or have you actually chosen to live that life? And here is already one insight I wanted to share with you. It's actually not our brains and our thoughts only that determine our life. It's actually a question of the right chemistry produced by your brain and by other instances in your body. You have heard about dopamine. It's the happiness hormone. And actually dopamine is created in your brain, in your body, actually before you get a reward. This is when dopamine is created. And it's also allowing us, once you are in dopamine, once you are happy, you are actually able and willing to take risks, well calculated risks, not the stupid ones, to run over a street where no traffic lights and hundreds of cars coming. You are taking calculated risks. You have heard about endorphin, which is the hormone that is created by your body when you are, for example, running, and when you are running tough. It's actually doing that when you are under stress and under pain. Endorphin is created, and it still gives you then a great feeling and helps you to push through a very difficult situation. For example, when you are running a marathon and when you are hitting the wall and you can push through that wall, then endorphin is created and gives you a great feeling. Oxytocin is created when you are around people that you trust, and then you're feeling safe, and you maybe have that feeling sometimes in our stomach, that we say, I don't feel right in that situation, and there will be no oxytocin and you won't feel safe. And finally, serotonin is created when we mammals, when we humans, having the opportunity to show that we also, amongst other strong humans, actually can show our value. And this is the happiness question. So it is so important that we make sure that we create these hormones and that we are not in the hormones of stress, to which I come in a moment. And happiness research shows also, Diner had done this research, that actually the frequency of a lot of small happy events creating more of dopamine than larger events. So on the right side, you see, for example, a promotion and a marriage. And on the left side, you see the things that we often talk about: saying thank you, being grateful, having a smile with someone. So these little things creating more dopamine than these big things. And you also, when we come back to the pleasure events, even a new car that you have ever dreamed of is wonderful for 5 hours, is still wonderful maybe for 5 days. After 5 months, the car and the dopamine that the car has created is gone. The thank you and the good connection and deep friendships that you experience again or day over day, they remain, and they will continue to create the dopamine. And why is that so important? Because the opposite effect, adrenaline and cortisol, are making us walking out of our neocortex. The neocortex is the area of the brain where we actually are thinking. And this neocortex is only 20 million years old. And if 30 to 50,000 years old, this neocortex explodes. Since then, humans can actually think why we are thinking. While the reptilian brain area, when adrenaline and cortisol are kicking in, you can't do anything. You're falling into that reptilian brain area. And actually, this reptilian brain area is more than 400 million years old. And if we want it or not, based on the chemicals that are floating through our body, we are actually switching into the neocortex, or we are switching into the reptilian brain. And the things that you are seeing on the left side, uncontrolled stress, plain pessimism, all making us creating adrenaline and cortisol. And if you have a toxic job, a toxic boss, I said this before, you won't meditate him away. But if you are making a fist in your pocket all day long and you are saying, this guy is so incapable and I hate it and I hate this place, you are creating more and more of adrenaline and cortisol. The best way is to get happy and then have a sensible discussion with that boss and confront him. This was important for me to set this down, that there is a chemical reaction in our body that makes us either being in full possession of our thoughts, being a flourishing, wonderful human being, finding solutions, taking risks. This is when you are in dopamine. This is when you are happy. And when you are in adrenaline, when you are in cortisol, you only can, I'm sure many of you have heard this, fight, flight, or freeze. And I have been sitting in so many business meetings where people not looking for the best solution for the company or for the situation, they are looking to fight. I'm sitting in so many meetings where people are so frozen by the stress and you know, the business is not going well and we need to do something, and they can't even decide or act on the things that you are seeing. So this is fundamental when we're talking about happiness. And then you see here, you know, Buddha was one of the people at the beginning I thought about. You know, Buddha says, all that we are is a result of our thoughts, and with our thoughts we are creating our world. And just making you think a moment, this is so true that I believe no one on the call have been ever going peeing without thinking it before. Everything that's happening in our life, whether we pull through a project, whether we're finishing a marathon or we're giving up, whether we're getting married, we're getting divorced, we're getting a promotion, everything is first a piece of our thought. The first flight, the first flight of the brother Wrights, they had imagined that this thing can fly. And then the rest of the people could buy into these thoughts. And if Buddha is a little bit too abstract for you, Henry Ford says it as well. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. You will never do something that you are not convinced about. And I'm coming back. There is then this connection that all the thoughts that you are thinking, if they are very negative, if they are very angry, you know, you're creating the adrenaline. The adrenaline sends more of that information back to your brain. The brain goes, oh, we are in stress, and the brain starts having more stressful thoughts. So the way then to, and then this finally gets into our brain, hardly wired, neurons that fire together wire together. Once you are in such a mood, yeah, then habits become a mood, and they are actually in our brains. And we humans, we wanna be right. So if we want on a trip, we wanna have this confirmed the next day, and we continue to have the same thoughts, and the same neurons are flowing, the same hormones are created, and there we are. And then it's so difficult to change your thoughts. And at the beginning, I had a yoga teacher who is a wonderful person, and he is part of the happiness workshops today. And he learned, actually, he said to me, Juergen, sit beside you and look at you. Why are you thinking that way? And figure out whether these thoughts that you are thinking, whether these actually are good thoughts for you, or whether you shouldn't change that. And at the beginning, that seems to be so difficult. I just need to change my thoughts, so that the reality can run after me and change. And it was not something that I could do in a week or in a month, and even not in a year. But becoming aware of your thoughts and where they are going, and actually observe them and give them another direction. This is why meditation and mindfulness are important. And with this meditation and mindfulness, you actually are able to reprogram the neurons in your brain so that you are not having the same mood and that you are not the same person, but that you can become again that person that you were when you were 25, when you wanted to go into the business world and make a positive change, that you wanted to become this inspiring leader and this people-oriented team leader that you always wanted to be. So that's why this is important. And now we get into the real thing, is happiness at work. Happiness at work is, and Olga Panek did this research for me. She is a positive psychologist. There are actually 3 ingredients that a company has to put in place to make the people happy and enthusiastic. You can read it down as a respectful and dignified treatment, fairness, and security. All things that resonate, I'm sure, with everyone. The achievement and the work activities, being pride in your company, empowering the people and not having only a top-down military kind of structuring way, the constructive feedback and realistic challenges, and finally, friendship and camaraderie. And it is important that happy job satisfaction and life satisfaction, of course, have a mutual influence. If you are very happy at work, but at home you are going through a divorce or something else, or you have just little kids that are stealing your sleep and giving you other headaches, that is influencing each other. And today, actually, I had a lunch with a doctor, and he was asking me. He's a doctor in a life insurance company, and he was asking me, Mr. Mueller, is actually this well-being talk, and so should we consider that for our insurance policies underwriting? And I said, yeah, of course. Someone who invests in his well-being, goes and runs every day, and eats healthy, sleeps well, I'm sure he has good factors on his side, but you shouldn't underestimate that other factors like a toxic work environment, a toxic family environment, you can meditate and run as much as you want. If these other factors are stronger, that will take away a lot of the good things that you are doing. While it has to be said, sleeping less than 7 hours a night, actually, research shows, takes away life expectancies in a significant way, increases the risks of falling ill. All this is true. But if you not have these elements here in your job, it will be very difficult to feel happy at work. And now I'm sharing with you the latest of the latest, actually, what makes me happy, what makes sense for me, what gives me energy, and what drives me. The answer to these questions are, for all of us, 2 simple words. The words are coming out of a group of 50 to 60 words, and I'd like to share a story how this actually comes together. I have 2 boys, Nicola and Florian, and if I ask them what makes them happy, both go, skiing makes me happy. And Nicola, my younger one, would explain, you know what, I take the skis in the morning on my back and I walk by my own up into the mountains. And then I decide whether I go left or right. Whenever everyone has been skiing before, I enjoy the total silence of the mountains. I enjoy that I can choose where I want to go. And once I'm down, I'm sitting down and I'm eating a sandwich all by my own. This is why skiing makes me happy. While Florian, my older boy, 21, he would say, you know, Daddy, we are a group of 10 people and we actually having the most of the fun already on the slopes, and we are racing down and we having a lot of fun, and then we are going to have a fondue at lunchtime together, and we have more fun and sharing and laughing, and I have all my friends around me, and the afternoon is the same, and finally we do the après ski, and he says that's why skiing makes me happy. And guess what? If Florian would need to go and ski the way that Nicola skis, and Nicola needs to go the way that Florian skis, I don't think that they will be on the long run say that makes me happy. And it's actually two basic intentions that are decisive for them. So for Nicola, the basic intentions that he is looking for is calm and freedom. When there is calm and freedom, Nicola is happy. The situation makes sense for him. It gives him energy and it drives him. For Florian, it's very much harmony and fun. If Florian finds harmony and fun in a situation, it makes him happy. It makes sense for him. It gives him energy and it drives him. And in our human lives, we are setting us everyday objectives, and we do this actually, objectives, 600 to 800 times a day. And from there, we driving actions and we putting this into activities. And obviously that takes energy out of us. And then we are reaching our objectives. But reaching that objectives without our two basic intentions being met actually continues to leave us an empty feeling. No creation of dopamine, no happiness, not the right hormones in your body, and then not the right thoughts. So explaining that in a business context, if you are, for example, someone who is resonating with calm and freedom, and you are sitting in an office that you are sharing with 50 other people, everyone shouting the whole day, and it's very hectic, and in top you have a boss who is a micromanager, you won't create, even if you reaching your objectives, you won't create the dopamine. Life is going to feel empty, and you are not going to be happy. You are not going to accelerate. You are falling very likely, very quickly into another direction. And so it's important for our business environment to create this environment. But this here is the key to our one's lives, to find out what these intentions are. And you see that this is a man that I met in my happiness research. He's called Rainer Runzer, and he has the Create Value Institute. He's helping people doing that. Finding out these basic intentions actually will make your day a source of energy, a source of happiness, a source of dopamine, and you are getting out of the hamster wheel, and you are creating through your everyday actions the right hormones and getting in there. And while we are at children, why is that so important in our business life? because as children, we are creating a lot of these situations. And you remember maybe when you have children, they are 2 or 3 years old, they are lying on their back, they are shouting, I want this, daddy, I want this, mom, and they are shouting as long as they have it. In the business environment, you can lay on your back and you say, I want to have a salary increase, I want to have this and that. You won't get it. You need actually to get there by reaching your objectives. And whether you reach your objectives or not, and whether actually that gives you energy to go for the next objectives, depends on whether you meet your basic intentions or not. That's very important for happiness at work. We saw that here before. I think companies, and Dan and I, we had a lot of discussions about that. I think that a company is not responsible for my happiness. PwC is not responsible for my happiness. But how are you actually seeing that, Dan?
I think this is it's a really thought-provoking topic. I mean, I liked your previous comment about the child. I've definitely had a few times where I lie on my back and shout for things and hope something's going to happen. It doesn't usually work very well. But I think it's interesting, certainly in the recent years, in the past 10 to 15 years, there's been a kind of a folk belief developed somehow that companies are responsible for our happiness, and we've seen that a lot in the companies coming out of Silicon Valley. You've got to have a ping pong table and bean bags, and high-end sushi chefs on your premises. And I definitely, I think the way you divided this up is really important. I think we are responsible for our own happiness, and I think businesses need to be able to facilitate these elements of equity, achievement, and friendship, or at least facilitate it. And I think if you were to give yourself, or I would give myself a scorecard on this, I wouldn't, we wouldn't score A's for sure, but we definitely try. And I think the more you think about it, the more you start to realize these are important things. And maybe one of the issues I sort of struggle with a little bit is a second one about this work activities, the job realistic challenge. Come back to your point, if you come back to the Henry Ford thing, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. Who's the arbiter of what's realistic? That's an interesting discussion for me, in that you can achieve amazing things if you believe you can. So realism is an interesting question in whose mind. But I agree with this completely. We're, as business leaders, we're responsible to create the environment and do that as well as we can. But we also have to make sure we're responsible for the success of the business, because without that, there isn't an environment. Yeah. So I agree with that.
I think it's absolutely vital also when we look to our society. And this is actually why I'm doing that. I believe that happy people, a happy CEO, a happy CFO, they will be taking better decisions for their company, as also the lowest level people will be better employees if they are happy. So that's really the point. And I feel that we as a society have come together on the 10th of December 2019, and we are where we are. We only can take it forward from here. And the more we have people actually who are in the right brain areas, and they are not in fight, flight, or freeze, but they are thinking about the future, what we want to do, and they can invite their people to join into ideas and create an environment where we actually can work together and not fight together. We are getting out there, and we are transforming the society, because there will be no super president coming and making all the good and well thought decisions for us. We have to do this together. And the more of us who are actually happy, create dopamine, go into their in the right brain area, the better we discuss, the more risks we are taking. Take care that you create dopamine and not adrenaline. If you are angry about something, look at it, why you are angry about it. If you have calmed down, then speak to someone about it, because this is the only way how it actually can change. Control your emotions, and especially when you are actually pushed. My yoga teacher gave me this wonderful formula of stop. Stop stands for, yeah, stop down. The T stands for take a breath. And if you do this now with me, just inhale very deeply and then exhale and let everything go. Do this with me. Inhale, exhale, let everything go. And then you observe. What are your emotions? Why are you in this stage? What are you thinking? And only when you have clearance over that, then you proceed. But never write an email when you're actually angry about the stuff that you are seeing in this email. Either put it away or delete it. You will make better decisions. And that's every one of us. Whatever is around us, with our thoughts, we are creating our reality. You can't influence the toxic box. You can't toxic boss. You can't influence this and that. But what you are making out of it is absolutely in your control. With your thoughts, you're creating your reality. With your thoughts, you're creating your chemicals. And then your chemicals are influencing your thoughts. And finally, we all have also to play our role in the businesses. We want our companies to be successful. And this is our all individual roles. And I'm coming back. What is the business case for happiness? And I have 2 slides here with a couple of things that Olga has researched for me. It is written year after year from so many instances that workers who experience positive emotions go and provide the better service. It is amazing how all of this work has never made it really into organizations, that we don't get it, that happy people are better performers, and better performance means that companies are actually doing, if the individual's doing better, the company will doing better. And so my thing is, with my workshops, with all the work that I'm doing, I want to spread this knowledge in the workshops, helping the people actually to get out of there. And together with you, then we made a couple of happiness hacks that you can do. So finding your intentions is definitely the most important lesson that I have had in the last year. You know, whenever I create an environment where my intentions are met, I tap into my energy, I tap into my creativity, and I'm finding solutions. And what you are seeing here, creating your life that you want to have over visualization, silence, helping. It's all there. But back again, whether actually stillness does resonate with you, it's depending on your basic intentions. If you have calm and freedom and easiness, then stillness is resonating with you. If you are someone who needs harmonious relationships, who needs fun and joy, then stillness will not have the same reasoning for you, will not create the dopamine and the right chemicals in your body. Very, very important. These are all things that are helping and definitely have helped me to get out of the crazy zombie state in which I was, but it's not sure that everything of that works for everyone. It's always depending on your intentions.
Thanks, Juergen. That's we'll review and think through some of these topics. I just want to bring a closing thought here. I think most of us have seen at some point of our education or business lives this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is kind of, when we discuss this this topic, Juergen, it brought it to mind, and we all know this kind of hierarchy from the basic needs of physiological needs and safety, so food, shelter, housing, and security, up to kind of higher level requirements. And first thing it makes me realize is how fortunate we are in the society we live in to have this very conversation, because I think there are a lot of parts, throughout history and a lot of parts of the world today where nobody would have the time to have this conversation because you're worrying about the basic, the bottom two basic requirements. But as you go up this hierarchy in the fortunate environment we find ourselves in, it seems to me that Maslow, when he was talking about self-actualization and esteem, was really talking about purpose and happiness. And maybe that's where it all comes together. So I've certainly found your experiences in your talk really, really thought-provoking. So that's my little contribution to the discussion. This is what we've talked about. So I think that's pretty obvious. So if you want to bring a chair up to the fire, Juergen, shuffle up to the fire, get some warmth. I mean, I'm very taken. There's a whole bunch of elements here which I think make most of us think fairly deeply. But one of my perennial questions is that we know the research says that happy people are more effective and produce more at work and all the rest of it. But that may be true statistically. But is that cause or effect? What's your view? Is it that happy people are more effective at work, or do you think the most effective people, whether at work or individually, happen to become more happy? Or is there no relationship at all? What do you think?
We haven't rehearsed that one then. I think that happy people will perform better, and then this better performance actually, because this is, we are all business people on this call, so we want to perform, and then when you are happy, you will also perform better. But here is the thing that the thing that I have observed actually is that this willingness to perform and the wrong beliefs in the business world today, that you actually, when we hear at year end and we hear that you actually did very well and you can do even better, the most of us are thinking doing better is working harder and working longer. And this is actually when it then counterbalance everything that we know also from science. There are studies out there then that are showing that you actually can only work 60 to 90 minutes highly concentrated and then you need a break. There are other studies showing that you actually can within a week only work 23 to 25 hours of intellectually high-end work. And then we see people sitting there 60, 70 hours a week, and we think late in the evening they produce still reasonable results. And this is where well-being and happiness comes together, and where actually good performers want to show that they perform well, but then they overdo it. So this is where the well-being links back, and I think working long hours and just running after results is the wrong thing. You actually need to run towards the people, including the people, and actually work with the people instead then of in getting in this fighting modus.
Right. So I would probably, sounds to me like it's a virtuous circle. That's a good thought. So you've given us an awful lot to think about. It's been an education for sure, listening to some of your observations and experiences, and there's been a bit of an inspiration, hopefully, to all of us to work out how we can both create a better environment and make our own lives a bit better. But I think a lot of what you've described also requires a bit of habit, and that is kind of the perspiration element of it. So normally in our webcasts, we have a Q&A session. We have lots of deep, meaningful questions and challenge ourselves on these. And I thought, in the light that this is both our last webcast of the year and the topic is happiness and calm, the best way of ruminating on what you've told us is probably to spend 60 seconds in front of the fire, just thinking through what you've shared with us. No phones, no email. I'm the worst at this. If I can do it for 60 seconds, I'm sure you can. If you, for whatever reason, you cannot do it, nobody's watching, But I think we just give it 60 seconds to think through what Juergen's talked to us about, and then we will bring it to a close. Well, 60 seconds of silence on a global webcast may actually be a first. It's also quite difficult, but hopefully you found it thoughtful thinking through what Juergen shared with us. I'd like to thank you all for spending your time with us. If you've got any questions or comments or want to ask Juergen any questions, drop me an email. I'd like to thank you, Juergen, for your thoughts and your experience and your time. So thank you, Juergen. And
thank you for having me and also listening to me since so many years.
No, thank you. And yeah, it's only 2 or 3 weeks to the end of the year, and we'll soon be in 2020. So wish you all as much happiness as you can get. So thank you very much indeed.